Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Hey, hey!
Hey, hey. Thank you, Krusty the Clown. How's it? Oh, I'm shaking my shaking my table there. That didn't look good. Hey, my name's Ryan Tamori. Welcome to the Pit Press Live, not the Pit Press Podcast. Happy to be joining you. Hey, feel free to reach out in the comments at us. For right now, it's people I know. So I'll refrain from that. But the Seton Hall Fighting Tim Chavez won a Lobo Seton Hall v Lobo exhibition in football. So there you go, Rick. Just a friend of ours from high school and college. Hey, welcome to the show. A lot to talk about. My name's Ryan Tamori. Appreciate you guys joining us. I'll introduce the gang or the usual suspects, as I always say. I'm going to start with this guy because he's recovering from some surgery, and we're happy to have him back. He's look good, feel good, look good. And that's what Deion Sanders says. Mr. Jacob Neff, you can follow him at NM Sports Capper on X, or the artist formerly known as Twitter. Jacob, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Ryan. Thanks for letting me come back on. I've healed up now, and I'm ready to talk some hoops and some Lobo stuff. I've missed being part of the conversation the last couple of weeks, so glad to be back.
It's really not timely, but I just got to get your thoughts on UConn winning the title game very quickly. I mean, I'm sure you weren't shocked.
Yeah, not shocked. I had them. I had them picked in one of my brackets, and then I went long shot and had Iowa State winning on one of them, which they would had to have beaten them, but they were just too good for everybody. It was very evident, too deep, too athletic around the perimeter, too many shooters. They were just the most complete team in college basketball all year. And honestly, you like to see that every once in a while, the best team win. And I think the last 2 years of college basketball, they were the best team, even though they were not a 1 seed the year before that. I still think that team, obviously we know that they were good because they had like 4 people drafted after they won that year. But yeah, that team was just unbelievable. And one thing is, man, Hurley has really turned around that program, right? Goes to show you what a good coach and recruiter can do. He keeps his talent there. Obviously, nobody would want to leave, but he knows how to keep his talent there, and he knows how to bring in people once he loses them. So no surprises there for me, Ryan. That's kind of business as usual, what we thought was going to happen this year.
Yeah, just wanted your thoughts on that. You're a big we're big into losing money on college basketball, so I wanted your thoughts. And you're probably most knowledgeable I don't know about the game as any of us here, or maybe west of the Mississippi. From the Bay Area, the Bay don't play. He's a 2-time offensive state lineman for San Juan Mendoza and the St. Pius X Sartans. He played basketball for state champion head coach Damian Segura at St. Pius as well. He is a Lobo, but I think his most important accolade is MVP of a 35-and-old Filipino rec league in Northern California. Mr. Richard Thompson, how are you?
I'm doing good, and I recently heard Charles Barkley bashing on somebody for playing in a Filipino league and saying how many Filipinos made the NBA. Well, I don't think maybe any, but they still know how to hoop. They love their basketball in the Philippines, and I love playing with those guys. They're awesome, but great to be on here. Pumped for the NFL draft coming up, and pumped to talk about some Lobo football, some basketball, and some other transfer notes. So let's get it going. Thanks for having me back.
As always, and I forgot to queue up the one, the only Chris Farley.
Richard.
He is the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs and a Lobo fan since 1970. His name is Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how you doing?
Doing good. Your season's over with Western until September, so been a long season. So I'm kind of glad it is over. A little 4-month reprieve and break, and looking forward to some downtime and traveling with the wife.
Usually, I'm on here with two Laker fans, and I'm a Knicks fan. Usually, when stuff like that happens last night, usually it goes the other way. So I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm sorry about your guys' Lakers, but I think both of you probably aren't. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Probably didn't think they were going to win, but maybe Ed, I'll let you start with that before we get in the Lobo lose around Lobo world.
Look, they're up 20, and my wife kept looking at me because I wasn't really smiling. I'm just looking with a face like this, like, when is it going to drop? When is the shoe going to drop? And it did. And people were saying online that the Lakers went away from the two-man game. They did not go away from it. Denver, their defense forced them away from that two-man game, making them take shots late in the clock. D'Angelo Russell had a great first half, kind of disappeared in the second. Anthony Davis got that fourth foul, and I thought when he got that fourth foul, the momentum shifted. I really couldn't even get mad because I think I told you this, Ryan. Denver's a better team. Murray and Jokic, you can't stop that guy. Once he gets in the paint, he's going to score. If you double him, he passes off. One of the best players we've seen in the NBA for a very long time. So I couldn't even. And then you got Porter, you've got Aaron Gordon. They're very KCP, Contavious Caldwell-Pope. They've got a solid bench and a good coach. So I've been mad before when they've lost, and I couldn't even get mad. I mean, it was one of those things. It's like it's going to happen. When is it going to happen? And LeBron James had a wide open look before Murray's made that shot, and he missed it. He played a pretty good game. I think at 39 years old, I'm never going to be that LeBron James fan. I've been a Laker fan since '72. He's never going to be he's a mercenary to me, a hired gun, and he's going to be leaving here pretty soon. But I can't deny some of the greatness that I saw last night. They just didn't get it done. And I think, hopefully they get one in Los Angeles without getting swept.
Richard, do you have a rebuttal?
Yeah, it's pretty depressing as a Lakers fan. Some people even turned it off, I believe, before it was over. But just once I saw it cut down to 10 with about 7 minutes left, I kind of knew that Murray was going to start knocking down some shots and give it to him. He had a terrible first half shooting, but down the stretch, he made all the right plays. And Joker, man, I don't think he makes a wrong pass out of the double team every time. He makes the right decision every time. And we've never seen a big man be able to play at this type of level as far as passing and shooting as well as scoring. And I don't think the Lakers have a chance to come back. It's pretty much done for them.
I thought last year that the NBA playoffs were a little lackluster. It was cool to see Denver win, and it was cool to see Jimmy Butler do what he did. I think it's been, even though all the home teams have won, it's been pretty stellar. Getting into Lobo, and by the way, there's a little thing, we're not going to go into that because nobody, I think, in Albuquerque cares, or majority of people don't care, the NHL playoffs. And that's something Jacob and I love. I grew up a big Devils fan, but nobody cares. Please feel free to join us, the chat on Twitter, on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, YouTube. I'm going to give my buddy, friend, former Daily Lobo companion. We're both Daily Lobo alumni. There you go, Ed. How many times can I reference New Jersey and
There's
the
one.
Daily Lobo? There's both. There's both. I also mentioned the Devils, so that counts. Isaac Avalusea, I sent him the link. I made sure to make him watch so he can critique me. Appreciate him watching, and I liked his Guess Who. We're going to start with Lobo basketball. I think the big news on the home front is CJ Nolan, a transfer from the University of North Texas, 6'4", 215 pounds. I'm going to go to our resident knowledgeable college basketball. I don't know. I'm not trying to steal it from the field of 68, but knowledgeable about Portal Combat. Started at Oklahoma, made his way to North Texas. I believe he was on that NIT championship game last year. They got to the second or third round this year, got beat down by eventual champion Seton Hall, Tim Chavez. There you go. Mr. Jacob Neff, what can you tell us about CJ Nolan?
Yeah, so, CJ's, like you said, he started off at Oklahoma. He didn't find too much playing time. He averaged like 3 points a game both years. made the decision to transfer to North Texas. He started off, I guess you could say he was pretty consistent all year, double-digit scorer in a lot of games. But he really turned it on at the end of the year when they needed him, which was during the AAC. I'm sorry, the AAC tournament. He had 13 against FAU, 23 against Tulane. He's actually a solid player. He can shoot threes. I think he shoots almost 40%. He's like 38 or 39%. He does struggle from the line a little bit, which is, awkward when you have a good shooter. Usually you don't, correspond with okay free throw shooting, but he's okay. Probably like 70%. But he gets in there, he rebounds, he shares the ball. And the one thing that I like about him the most, and this is something that if you don't watch college basketball too much, you wouldn't know, but North Texas plays defense. And if you play on North Texas, you have to play defense. So that's a positive. You'll have somebody out there at the perimeter being able to, follow shooters around the top of the key. Is going to be somebody that gives it his all on the defensive end and the offensive end, which I think is going to be something that's refreshing to us. And I see him slotting in as in the two, playing alongside Donovan, and really, filling that void that we may have had after Mash left, as, not having a real true shooting guard. I think True probably would have been the one to step into that role if we didn't get a guard. But I just think that Nolan is going to step in. He's going to be a little bit more of a complete player. We've lacked shooting on this team for quite some time now, especially from the outside. And I think that he presents something like that that's different. So I think Lobo fans will like him. He's an effort guy. I'll give him that. And, usually when, those are the types of guys that win over New Mexico fans' hearts, right? Like House, all effort, going nonstop. He's going to be the type of guy that's going to do that. So I'm excited to have him. When I saw him sign, I thought it was great. I actually like him more than Deng. I know he was looking at coming here. I think that Nolan is a more complete basketball player than Deng is. I think Deng is more an offensive generated player. And what the Lobos need is somebody that's going to dig their heels in and play some defense, but also should be able to shoot some perimeter shots. So I think he's an overall great add, and we'll see who they continue to add here in the next week or so. But I give him a solid probably A minus on this one. He's a guy that they dug deep and found, and I like him. So that's what I know about him and a little bit about what he's done.
I was hoping you would going to channel your inner. Goodness, I can't think of his name. See, I told you guys I'm always losing my name. I can't remember anybody's name anymore. He's a real guy. John Gruden. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name. I thought you were going to pull John Gruden there. He's a real guy. Fourth-year senior with one season of eligibility remaining. Took a recruiting visit to UNM this past week, and to much pleasure for UNM fans on Sunday afternoon, announced via social media that he was committed. He did the whole, Jeremy Dang did the whole not committed thing. He started 20 of 29 games, averaging 10.9 points per game, 16 over the final 5 games. Ed, I'll start with you there. We've made this reference about how maybe UNM needs somebody that's similar to a Tony Snell because his team could not shoot last year. When you hear that, what do you think? Your thoughts about this transfer and where he might fit in?
Well, I take Jacob's word for it. I read about him in the paper, and I think he was a freshman of the year, one of those places he was at. The defense, I think, is important. Now, Jacob saying that he could supplant True in that lineup says a lot. I don't know if that'll happen. I don't know what will happen, but that tells me a lot if he plays that kind of defense. But I think what Jacob said, too, what we've all said, their shooting from the perimeter has been, inconsistent. Mash had some games. House had some games. C.J. Jenkins back in the day, Javante Johnson. They've tried shooters from the perimeter. Mustafa Hamzil this year had some good games. But if he can knock down, and then I think he scored 21 later in the season, his scoring started going up. So I think that's a good sign. Remember, he's coming into a crew that by all accounts is returning, with Dent and Toppin and Nelly. That's an experienced crew that he's walking into, and he's got experience. And I think he's going to fit in pretty well. And Mustafa Amzil returning, Apple Hands, Webb, they're all supposedly coming back. So I think that what Jacob talks about, the defensive part, is really important. Now, True Washington had some really good defensive games earlier in the season, not so much later. He's a pretty good defender, a slasher. But Ryan, when you mentioned Tony Snell, Nolan is 6'3", I believe. I was thinking more of a 6'6" guy if we could get that guy. But Rick keeps bringing this up too. Maybe he's still on the roster with Quentin Webb. He hasn't moved anywhere. So maybe Webb becomes that guy that's that 3-and-D guy. I'm looking for a taller wing that that could perform out there. But with Jacob saying what he said, I'm pretty hyped about that because True Washington is a pretty solid player. And if he can supplant, that's an if he could start and Washington came off the bench, if he's okay with that, New Mexico should be, again, very solid returning with the core that they have, with the experience that they got this year, a battle-tested team. They did lose in the NCAA tournament, but they had they had some battles. They won some, they lost some, but they won the Mountain West tournament, and they went to the tournament. Those are goals that I think they can build on. And this young man, Nolan, sounds like a very, very good addition.
Feel free to chime in on YouTube or Twitter. The conversation. Join us. As I've always said, this is just not our show. It's your show, and it's a show for the Lobo world, which probably predominantly in Albuquerque. Rick, I'm going to defer. Go ahead, Rick. I was going to defer to you.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Sorry, I don't know if you want to keep going on Nolan, but I can very easily see him in Washington playing together. I don't really agree with the thought that's been put out in the paper and maybe even on our show that Amzil would start if Toppin comes back. I don't really see Amzil in the 3 position, and I could easily see Washington starting along with CJ Noland. And Noland at 215, he's able to bounce guys off of him. A lot different player than Mash, right? He's a more physical. He can even post up a little bit. He uses his body to create contact. He goes to the hoop a lot stronger in my eyes than Mash. He puts the ball on the floor and runs the pick and roll. He's able to hit the bounce pass really nice out of the pocket. So I think he's a nice combo guard. I think he fits next to Dent because he likes to sit outside and shoot as well. But he's not someone that's just going to settle for outside shots all the time. And like Jacob hit, I think he's willing on defense, and I think he fits in perfectly on this roster as it is constructed as of now. So I think you hit on some great points, both of you.
Shot 38%, 38.4% from 3, 86 attempts. In the 29 games he played, just south of 3 rebounds, had about 2 assists, a steal, 1.8 turnovers a game. That's a stat I like to hear. Hey, we got to go to Lionel Hutz's alias. Miguel Sanchez. Is Nolan really 6'4"? Is he an inch taller than Mash? Jacob, do you know who, if
he's 6'4"?
how tall? 6'4"?
He's about 6'4". Yeah, he's not going to be a giant guard. He's an average size guard, but he plays bigger than what he is. And what, if you haven't watched him, he's tough. Like, that's the thing is we've, and I'm not trying to bash on any, old Lobo players or anything like that, but we haven't seen grit from a guard, besides House. I would say House was tough. He put it down, but this is a bigger guard than House, and this is a guy that's not going to be afraid to put his body up against somebody on defense. He's going to put his hands on you. North Texas, and if you don't watch them, they play a very, very similar pace to like Air Force. They're slow. It's work the ball around, and get a shot. But on defense, man, if you watch that team on defense, I'd be willing to bet if you go to KenPom, and I haven't looked this up, but I'm willing to bet if you go look at North Texas's defensive efficiency in KenPom, they'd be in the top or very, very close to the top 50. And you have to also remember it's not a top-notch school, right? But they play very tough. And I think that you're going to see you're going to like what you see with him, because he's not afraid to get in there with the bigs even. Like Rick was saying, he'll drive it to the hoop, he'll post up. He's not afraid of contact. So that's going to be something that Lobo fans like to see, uh, as well as his outside shot. He does have a really nice shot. So yeah. So sorry, I went off on a tangent when you just asked how tall he was, but yes, 6'4" is what he is.
Yeah, no, I went to North Texas, 6'4", ESPN has him 6'4". Mashburn is listed as 6'2" on golobos.com, so there you go. Speaking of Jamal Mashburn Jr., he has transferred to Temple University in the city of brotherly love. He has 1 year of eligibility left. Temple coach Adam Fisher was the assistant at Miami when Mash was recruited to the U. So there's a little bit of lineage there. I'll tell a story about Temple, and it involves gambling. Probably sometime in February, I took Tulane -9 against Temple. The game went into overtime, and Tulane figured out how to win the game by 12. So that was kind of Temple in a nutshell. But they managed to get to the AAC championship game and lost. They lose to FAU. Who won the AAC, Jacob?
Yeah, well, so
UAB.
Yeah, UAB was the one who won because they stole the automatic bid.
They stole the bid. That's right.
Yeah, but they played them pretty tough for a half, and then it got ugly in the end.
I'll get the opinions of the roundtable here, the usual suspects. I think a change of pace is good. I mean, we all agreed with that. I think there's a lot of our listeners, there's a lot of Lobo fans that believe that he is needed a change of scenery. Again, I said for a while there, he was probably up there as one of my favorite Lobo players to watch. This year was a little bit of a struggle. I don't know what to say to that. But he helped him win Nevada. That was a big win. Down the stretch, that team played incredibly well in Las Vegas. Philadelphia, I'm sure he's probably used to it, but Philadelphia is a much bigger city than Albuquerque. So it's definitely a change of pace. I know he's from Miami, recruited to bigger schools. Temple is not the Eagles. Temple is not the Phillies. Temple is not the 76ers or the Flyers. So he's not under a microscope as far as college basketball goes, here in Albuquerque. But Temple's got a lineage. Temple's got a history, maybe to help rejuvenate that, maybe help them get back to the tournament. I don't think Temple's been to the tournament for some, maybe a decade now. I remember when we were in that, probably one of the better tournaments ever, 2016 one, when we were in Vegas. I think Texas A&M came back to beat them, or Northern Iowa came back to beat them. No, Northern Iowa beat Texas on that buzzer beater, and then A&M beat FAU with that comeback in the second round. You just don't forget, even drinking heavy amounts of alcohol, Jacob, you don't forget things like that. I'm going to defer to Rick and his thoughts on Jamal Mashburn transferring to Temple, but one of our listeners chiming in, we appreciate it. Grant Atencio, haven't watched the show in the minute. Glad to hear you all are doing good. Hey, we appreciate you listening again. It's much love. And if I can be as corny, I'll make the heart sign there. Hooter the Owl, baby. He's their most important player. Is that really the mascot's name? Because I'm going to say you're probably right. Rick, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on Jamal Mashburn Jr. transferring to Temple.
Couple things not directly related. FAU may have the better owl logo now in college sports, so they better watch out. And second of all, highlight for me this week is Jamal Mashburn Sr. liked one of my tweets yesterday, and being a huge Jamal Mashburn fan growing up, that was pretty sweet. He hasn't followed me yet, but just to pump up my credibility out there. Jamal Mashburn liked my tweet. Anyway,
I don't mean to interrupt you, Rick. You'll appreciate this. I did not know this. The Temple Owl his name is Hooter the Owl. So that makes me very happy. Continue. And I hope that Mashburn follows you. That'd make me happy too.
Anyway, Junior, as we know, he's a very loyal player. He followed Patino to UNM from Minnesota. Now he's following a coach that once recruited him to the University of Miami. Coach Fisher is now at Temple. So, just a loyal player. He really helped New Mexico turn things around during his time here. I think, he mentioned it a few times this year. Social media was really giving it to him and the whole team. And I think that had, probably some part in the decision making to stay or go, but I think he was ready for a change of scenery either way. And I just wish him the best. I really enjoyed watching him play here, and hope he can continue to play even after college.
He carries the weight. I don't, maybe not weight. That's not the correct thing to say, but he carries that name takes, it goes far. I was talking to somebody I'm not going to drop his name, but somebody who's from Kentucky and talking about basketball. And he was like, Rick Pitino was a rock star, and that team was, Mashburn's a god here and everything in Kentucky. I mean, that's up there in one of the names in the history of college basketball. Ed, you appreciated Mashburn. Obviously, he struggled down the stretch. You always mention when we talk, and we talked about Jamal Baker Jr. a lot this year, that when you see, as a shooter, when you see the ball go in the net, that confidence rises. How do you see maybe him, probably not knowing much about Temple basketball, but how do you see him, Mashburn Jr., helping?
Well, he's a shooter. Yeah, he's a shooter. I was kind of surprised they didn't have a great record that he was going there. But I think we should remember he helped them win 20 last year. This year, I think that injury, the quad injury, set him back. And then when he hurt his thumb, and shooting's about mechanics with your legs and the follow through. And I think, I don't know, it was inconsistent. We said that every game. And then some games against Nevada, he's burying shots up and down, mid-range mash, 2 dribbles, boom. And so I thought they ratcheted up the defense on him, some teams with length. And they made him ineffective in some games. He was much maligned, I think, by some fans at the end of the year. But I appreciate what he did here. But when at the end of the season, and I knew he had one more season, I think we all kind of agreed on that. It would have been better for him, to go somewhere else. This is unquestionably Donovan Dent's team. If Nolan comes, he's coming in, and Washington comes back. But this is Donovan Dent's team, period. So if Mashburn had been around, and maybe there had been a little question like, he wants more shots, he wants this, he wants that. That's out of the way now. But I appreciate him for what he did here. He had 2 solid seasons. Maybe this year wasn't as good as last year, but I appreciate what he did here and wish him the best of luck at Temple.
To the commenters, Jared Royale, Mash was a great Lobo, and thank you, Mash, for helping bring Lobo basketball back. That's a true comment. He definitely helped the rejuvenation here. I'll be honest, Jacob, other than that Tulane game, which makes me want to buy a Tulane shirt that day, coming back -9. I don't know anything about Temple, other than they were pretty bad. But you get hot in March at the end of February, and you find yourself in the conference tournament championship trying to steal an auto bid. And that league did steal a bid. What do you know about Temple? Anybody in and out transferring? And same old question: how can Jamal Mashburn Jr. potentially help them, rejuvenate Temple basketball?
Yeah, Temple had a pretty bad year. They were 20-loss team. Probably played worse than what they were. I would say that. I mean, that team definitely had some talent. You saw how that team could get hot. In a 3 to 4 game stretch. I think he fits in there because if you watch some Temple game, I watched a couple games here at the end of the season when the conference tournaments were going on. Temple was a pretty free-flowing team, but they didn't shoot very well when I watched. So I think maybe what Temple's looking at there when they go to look at Mash, and obviously maybe it was just the fact that he had the relationship, with Fisher, to bring him in there. But when I look at why Temple would want somebody like him, is they see the potential of how Mashburn can shoot. He brings a different feel to that team. They needed a guard. I could tell you that right now. But more importantly, Mash is somebody that's going to fit in there because he's going to start, which is what he needs, right? He'll be in the East Coast, which I think ultimately, I'm not sure if he ever really wanted to leave that, that portion of the country, whether that was like up there in Minnesota or, wherever he was playing. It seems like he was I know he's from Florida, but, just on the East Coast of the United States. So, I think he's happy to go back there. And I think what he likes about that is maybe he's going to fly under the radar, right? He's not going to put so much pressure on himself for signing at a giant school and potentially having to fight his way for a position. He's going to start there. We know that he's going to play a big chunk of minutes. And like, Ed said, this guy's more than capable. I mean, maybe the injuries played into it last year, but at the tail end of the season, when we started seeing him saying he was going to keep receipts, and he started posting some things that were said about him from Lobo fans across the country, or here in Albuquerque, and he started tagging those people in his tweets and stuff. I think we probably knew at that point he might have been gone, because he just was kind of fed up with everything. As the listener said, thank you, Mash, for obviously coming over here with Pitino, staying loyal to him, bringing Lobo basketball back onto the map. We can't say enough about that. As Lobo fans, we were dying to be relevant again, and those players helped us. There's definitely no argument against that. But I think Mash found a nice home where he can settle in, play under the radar, a team that doesn't have any expectations, and maybe improve his game, right? Be able to be the central focus of that offense, where that might not have been the case here. We, like Ed said, we think Dent is going to be the focus of this team. Toppin stays. There was a lot of people to share the ball with here, so I think that he went to a team where he's going to be the central option, and ultimately what he wants.
I want to get to some of the listeners, but before I do that, I Googled Temple's men's basketball, and here's a headline in The Athletic. Temple men's basketball team played several games with unusual betting patterns. So there you go. And it kind of keyed in on, I think, the game against Alabama Birmingham. To some of the listeners, Jimmy Hester. Mash was a great Lobo. It is somewhat sad, but he will be far better appreciated by Lobo fans of the future. He was by the current ones this past season. He's up there. Mash is intelligent, well-spoken. He's a great mentor. That's where I see his position in Temple. Drea US, appreciate that. To my one of the members of the Pit Press, or New Mexico Alumni Media, my business partner, Eric Moulton. Congratulations to him. I didn't even start that out. He had a baby girl named Jagger. He says baby Moulton has landed, tuning in from home, loving the conversation, fellas. Appreciate that. TiVo 12, St. John's is a sinking ship. Wonder what conference you went to college in, Tim. Appreciate you listening, man, even though I know I sent you the link. Speaking of East Coast, I'm digging the schedule that Pitino is building. VCU and UNM will start a home and home this season, and it will be in the Pit on Wednesday, December 18th. Ryan Odom, who was responsible for UMBC upsetting Virginia in 2018 as a 16 seed over the 1 seed. I'm responsible for that because I saw UAV beat North Carolina 5 days before that happened in the Barclays Center in Brooklyn against defending champ North Carolina. I remember Sean May was on that team. It was a great crowd, UNC fans, UVA. It's a different world. It's great. Playing VCU, Ryan Odom was the head coach there. He left for Utah State, bolted to VCU. This was his first year at VCU. Got them second or third round in the NIT. He's had obviously some tournament experience. He got Sean Ashworth, that team there last year, man. Oh goodness, what's the Ukrainian kid's name? Jacob. He went to
Max
VCU. Max Shulga, right?
Shulga.
Yeah. Went to that. Went to VCU. They played for the A10 title, and Duquesne stole that bid. Neff, I'll start with you on this one. And we didn't have you on, but you see St. John's on this schedule. You see VCU on this schedule as opposed to what was ever the schedule this was last year. And, we've talked about it and we've defended it. VCU and St. John's, while you and I love the Big West and some of the smaller West Coast conferences, you see VCU and St. John's on this schedule and going to St. John's and playing in the Garden. What are your thoughts? These are two games that are beefier, and this is not going to be like a latter half of Ken Palm, right?
Well, right. And this is what we were talking about during the season. I think we talked about this down the stretch too. And we saw, some of these people saying, how the hell is UNM not in the tournament? Right. And, Patino's taken it to heart, and he's not going to try and schedule just a cake out of conference where you can go 12-0 and start off so great, because realistically we saw what that did for us last year. We would have missed the tournament if it wasn't for us winning the Mountain West because of our schedule and some of our opportunities that we had in the scheduling that we did last year. Just seeing UNM getting to play in the Garden, that's great. That's unbelievable. I'm really glad that we have some of these connections. Obviously Patino at St. John's to play his dad. To play his son. It's nice to see that he's willing to open up his scheduling to allow UNM to go in there, because there is a potential, for UNM to go down there and beat him, which wouldn't help his cause. But then Ryan Odom, a guy that used to be in the Mountain West Conference, gets a job at VCU, takes his players from Utah State, or some of his players from Utah State over there. These are the types of schools that we need to see on our schedule. I'd like to even see potentially if Sprinkle would give the UNM the opportunity to play Washington. Just getting names like that on your schedule is much better than seeing you beat a 237th ranked UC Riverside at home by 20. They admire just the names and the challenges in your schedule. We saw how much they took that into consideration this year. So happy to see it. Hope we could get a couple more in there. That'll be good for UNM basketball across, we'll have more out of conference games that are on TV and get a little more coverage. So I think it's great for us. And I'm glad that he's able to land some of those games so far.
I think that that would probably be, on ESPN or something with the American Conference. So that's good for UNM. I think we'll end the basketball conversation here with some of the Rick and Ed. I already know how you feel about probably scheduling a VCU. Hey, it's a tougher schedule. You guys are happy. JT Toppin.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. I was going to mention JT Toppin. JT Toppin will enter the NBA draft while maintaining his collegiate eligibility. 12 points, 9 rebounds, Mountain West Conference Freshman of the Year, Freshman of the Week, all. Yeah, dude, I'm probably going to go. FYI, I don't have to pay for lodging. I'll be in East Brunswick. Forgot what I was saying. JT Toppin. I mean, all the accolades, got national recognition. Rick, I'll start with you on this. You can't blame him for testing the NBA waters, can you?
Definitely not. If you're getting the attention and your game looks like a game that can evolve, and NBA scouts are always looking for someone that they think might be good 2 or 3 or 5 years down the road, and they're calling your number, I think you can't do anything but go out and see what you can do in the camps. I looked at a bunch of NBA draft boards today, and maybe it's because he wasn't even declared eligible, but I couldn't find him listed anywhere, even on draft boards that went beyond the top 60. So I know he's going to go and give it a shot, and I think he should. I can definitely see him playing in the NBA. I don't know if the time is right now. As a fan, I definitely hope he comes back, but I'm not surprised by this move. But that would be a major loss if he was lucky enough to go through with it and get picked.
Ed, I always appreciate talking to you about, playing in the playing in the paint, playing big. Can Toppin, at least right now, I'm trying to ask you a different question than Rick, but when you watch the NBA, and you do, is his game there? Is his game evolved yet? Even though that was a tremendous freshman year. I mean, obviously, I don't think so. So
No, I don't. I think I think with Rick, another year of you look at his body. I looked at it a lot, and natural maturation, years worth, and some strength training will really help. Now, we had David Chiotti on our Lobo Legend series, and you remember what he said, Ryan, that he wasn't ready for the NBA. And David, the way he breaks the game down, played pro in Italy, was amazing. He doesn't have stretch skills yet. He's got that one left-handed hook, nice jump hook move. It's pretty good. Not a turn and face move yet. He doesn't have enough tools, in my opinion, in his toolbox to play at the NBA level. I didn't say he couldn't. I didn't say that. I just said for now. I think one more year at college, a solid year with the New Mexico, and he'll definitely be, I think, ready next year. But I think this year, particularly this summer, is very crucial to his development with the work he's going to put in. No question about it. With the skills work that on his footwork, on adding some more tools in the post and getting stronger. He's only going to get better. Freshman of the year, we saw some of the dunks he made. One at the pit was just amazing. I mean, when one lady said it changed her life. Now it's overboard, but it was amazing. One lady really said that. So, and I remember that dunk. I was like, wow, man, geez, I think like House, who tested the waters and came back. I think JT Toppin will test the waters. And Rick, you made a good point. You said that he's not listed on any of those boards as being drafted high like that. And I think one more year of work and a solid season next season, and he'll be ready. I would think.
And I've been trying to think of a NBA player to compare him to, like maybe 4 years down the road. And someone that just came to mind because he was on TV tonight is Naz Reid on Minnesota T-Wolves, because he's a player that can shoot from the outside. He's 6'9". He can run the pick and roll. He's kind of the same build. Obviously, he's a lot stronger and bulkier because he's 5 years older than JT. But I would look at Naz Reid's game if I was Toppin and try to evolve towards something as a pick and pop guy. As we already know he can run the floor and rebound and block. That's not going to leave him at the next level. But as far as his evolution, someone that can stretch more, shoot from the top of the key, which he showed a few times this year, and as well as work on his ball handling. But I think he definitely has the chance to make it at the next level.
I think he's doing the same thing that Jalen House is doing. He's just going to test the waters. What I want to do is hit on a couple other things, then we're going to come back and talk Lobo football. The spring game was this past Saturday. And I've got a few thoughts about it. Women's tennis. The New Mexico Lobos defeated Air Force 4-0 on Friday to win the first outright Mountain West regular season championship in program history. Congratulations to them. Mountain West Player of the Week was named to Catherine Zhang of women's tennis. So congratulations to them. Jacob and I are big baseball guys on here. The Lobo baseball team kind of started the season off well, and it's not been kind of pretty lately in conference. They were in Colorado Springs on over the weekend, and the snow up there there was tons of snow up there in April and canceled the Mariners Rockies game, postponed it. But today they played a day game against a pretty good Texas Tech team. When you find those teams in the Big 12, that's some good college baseball. They erupted for 17 runs today, hit 4 home runs, 17-3 rout of Texas Tech in Lubbock, or as Van Tate told me once, Lubbock. Scored a run in every inning from the third on but the 6th. So 5 innings of six innings of a run, 21 hits. That's pretty impressive. 46 at bats, and obviously 16 RBIs. That's pretty good. Left 13 on base. Texas Tech left 10 on base. What we're going to do now is take a quick break, come back and talk a little bit Lobo football. We did have our special guest, Cy Riley, who is a former UNM football player. He was out there. When he joins us next week, we're going to have some audio for you. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. And then I'll also throw out, didn't mention earlier, my conversation with Albuquerque Journal UNM football beat writer, Sean Ryder. So we'll take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. Appreciate everybody listening. Start here. Recorded interview with Sean Ryder, the Albuquerque Journal. We're gonna I posted that. Going to release it now on the interwebs, on our social media platforms. Great young guy, Michigan State alum. He was out at the spring game. I was going to go, didn't go. Rick, obviously in the Bay Area. Eric was having a child. Jacob recovering, and Ed was in Silver City. So didn't get to it. Hot day, better weather. Or as the UNM press release like to say, it was perfect weather on a picture perfect day with tons of action for the UNM football players who were ready for action. I think I'm paraphrasing it there, but the Cherry defeated the White 42-0. Which Cherry was offense and White was, or excuse me, Silver was defense. Actually, it was White. It wasn't the Cherry Silver game. It was White. And the defense didn't score any points. Devin Dampier got all but 2 snaps. Talked to Sean about that. Probably running, 3 wide out, running back in the backfield, lone back in the backfield. Only about 1,200 people there. And that's kind of where I'm going to gear this conversation because none of us went. Again, we hope to bring you more Lobo football coverage. Jacob and I are big college football fans, so it's going to be easy for us. Ed, I want to start with you because obviously you were in Silver City, but you read the Journal every day. Sean does a good job. When you only hear 1,200 people there for a new head coach, I mean, how does that to me, that doesn't bode well. And I think the question is, does anybody here care? I mean, I know it's our choice, but we lead off this episode talking basketball. But when you hear what you've heard and you read that, I mean, it seems like, how hard is it to jumpstart this program?
Yeah, it'd be incredibly hard. Now, look, if I'd have been here, I would have been there. You would call it 1301 or whatever. I would have been there. But look, we've said this before about Lobo football. Bob Brown used to say this to me. Bob Brown, the former ESPN radio broadcaster. If you're a football town, people are there at 12, they're there at 2, they're there at 4, they're there at 5 or 7. They're there. And it's been hard, it's been a hard sell here. Now, Rocky Long built success. 38,000 against Rice one time, I remember. 38,000 against BYU, 44,000 against New Mexico State. I was there. There was that many people there. They rode that, success for a while, and then Paul Krebs wanted to get rid of him and bring in Mike Loxley and bring in an extra digit on the scoreboard, he said, which never happened. Then they go to Bob Davie. I was talking to a friend of mine today. Bob Davie won 2 bowl games here at New Mexico. One team was 9-4.
Got to 2, 1-1.
What's that?
Got to 2 bowl games, only won one of them.
Okay, yeah. Okay, got to 2 bowl games. So they haven't been sniffed a bowl since. Now, when Coach Davie was here, they had decent teams and it did not move the attendance meter. 22,000, I think they averaged. They were running the triple option. What this friend of mine said, they don't want, people don't want to see that. They don't want to see the triple option. They want to see footballs in the air. So I thought when they hired Bronco Mendenhall, and I looked at the record, and I said this, he's had one losing season. That was at Virginia. I don't know what it's going to take here. Now I liken it to New Mexico hiring Steve Alford in basketball. That I thought that was that important of a hire with Bronco Mendenhall. Look, a lot of things are yet to be determined. So yeah, I'm still anxious to see what they're going to be. The crowd, that's not surprising to me. You remember how Bob Davie's career ended at UNM, even Danny Gonzalez's. How many fans were in the stands when Bob Davie's last game at UNM? They said maybe 100 fans were in the stands. When Coach Gonzalez against Utah State, I think they had fans, but I don't know if that was his last home game, but there's near the end of the season, there were not a lot of fans in the stands. When and they'll come. I've always said that they'll be back. Will they be back consistently? I don't know, because it's never been able to build a consistent fan base since Rocky Long left. That's fact. That's undisputable. So we'll see what happens. Again, I'm one of those glass half full guys, but not a Pollyanna. Not the guy that's going to tell you everything's great when it's not. But the guy has won football games before. I'm looking forward to see what they're going to be. We'll see. But again, the fans there, not surprising. I thought maybe they get a little bit more though. To be honest, with the first year, look under a coach with the resume that Bronco Mendenhall has, I thought they might have some more fans.
For all of the things that I really appreciated Danny Gonzalez for, he was really, really good to us during his final season here. He met with us 6 or 7 times during the course of the season. I thought the one thing, I don't know if this was, again, I'm not pointing fingers. I don't know if this was his decision. I thought it was incredibly boneheaded. They played the spring game last year on a Monday night in February. I don't really understand. I didn't understand that moment. At least this spring game was on a Saturday. I don't think it was necessarily probably the best marketed. That's just me. It's almost like they're trying to hide the team and go away. To me, it's very hard with a team that hasn't won. Rick, you were able to listen to some of the audio Cy got. You played lineman, and I know I made that comment. You were like, I didn't play it at that level, but you still have some knowledge about football. From everything you heard, the big thing that I took away is the changing of culture. You won some football games. I don't know how much that helps them. It almost feels like Bronco Mendenhall doesn't know what he has this year.
Yeah, and I guess for you and the listeners, I did get recruited to play college football at 2 schools in Kansas, being Benedictine College and University of St. Mary's. So they were not willing to give me a full scholarship, so I didn't want to put my talents on full display and risk my potential earnings as a business analyst. So here I am. But no, I think hearing the interviews that Cy got, and we'll play them in the future here, you could really hear the whole team is bought into the culture that Bronco and the coaching staff is instilling in them. All the position coaches seem to be instilling this will over skill type mentality and really putting that mentality in their head. The question for me as a fan and as someone who was on the field during the Mike Locksley era, watching from the sideline, is you can have all the mentality, you can have all the heart, all the determination. Is there any talent on this team? They have 65 players right now. That's the most alarming thing to me. I know Coach Mendenhall wants to carry 115. Are we going to be able to get 50 players, with some probably transferring out between then and now? I mean, maybe 40 of them will be walk-ons. I don't know. Those are the questions I'm raising in my head. Where is the talent outside of quarterback and running back? They did gain a transfer of Tyreek Austin Cave, a linebacker from West Virginia who also played at Miami. So I know they've been a little questionable so far in the linebacker position. So they will be gaining players, and this guy has some great experience. But purely from a fan standpoint, it's kind of tough when you see people can't take video or photos of the game, and you're just someone that wants to learn more about this new team moving forward. So it's a little frustrating from a fan perspective at this point, when you want to be hopeful, but there's nothing to see at this point.
I have thoughts on the no camera policy. I think it's batshit insane. But I want I want to go to Jacob first, and I know, Jake, what you love college football. So I'm kind of trying to throw you a softball here. Obviously, it's nice to hear that somebody transferred from West Virginia and played at Miami. So the guy's got talent, and that's Tyreek Austin Cave. We can make all the jokes we want about UNM football, but with what you've heard, what do you make of it as a fan and as somebody who is a diehard college football fan?
Yeah, I've been trying to think, what I mean, obviously I like the Bronco hire. I've heard from some folks that it's, kind of a private thing right now. It seems like it's low key, very under the radar. I'm not sure if we're doing that to just try and keep the spotlight off them and make them hungry, or for them to prove that fans need to come to games. I'm not sure really what the agenda is with that. I would feel like you'd want to pump up the team as much as you can, right, to get people into the stands. Really boast that we have a new coach, somebody that's bringing in new talent. But I just hope that for the sake of this city, we could get somewhat of a football team back, because man, it's been it's been rough for quite a while now. And I hate to say it, but you go to, I've seen you take some of those pictures, Ryan, from the press box, and it almost looks like Manzano and Cibola are playing, right? So it would be nice to see some fans in the stands, and just go back to the days, like when Dontrell played, and it was packed, and we had some awesome crowds and some good football teams, and it was something to do on a Saturday, you know what I mean, during the summer, during the football season. So for me, I really hope it works out. I'm not quite sure what the what the agenda is right now, like I said, but if they can, maybe pull, obviously anything's better than what we've seen, right? I think we just want to see a little bit of improvement and some fight out of them at first. But I think Bronco, with his history of him being at some pretty pretty decent schools, can definitely turn this around if he gets the right players in here. So for me, my expectations are not great this year, just because we know that it's going to be tough. You you especially in this realm of college, you've got the transfer portal, and you've got to try and patch things together the first year and keep some people and build off that, right? So I think we have to expect this to be a rebuild year, and maybe we could pull 2 or 3, 4 wins out and build something off of it. That's my thought.
The thing is, this is the hardest schedule that they've also had, to my memory, since I've been watching the Lobos, and that's since I had season tickets for Brian Urlacher's final season. I mean, after Montana State, they go to Arizona, to Auburn, home against Fresno. So, I mean, we're probably looking at a rough start, and then they go to New Mexico and home versus Air Force, which would probably be winnable, but it's going to be a rough first season. Let's not forget Mendenhall, I believe, was 2-11 his first season at Virginia before kind of righting the ship. So he's capable of doing so.
He got them to an Orange Bowl in an ACC title game, I believe, before COVID in 2019, and they hadn't beaten Virginia Tech in years, and he did it in Charlottesville. In 2019, so quite a while ago. Reading this, my favorite Lobo team was Casey Kelly, was QB, Dontrell Moore, Hank Baskett, all New Mexico talent. Probably never see that again. I always mention that. They lost to UNLV in 2003. Had they won that game, they would have won a Mountain West title. They went into Salt Lake City and Rice Eccles Stadium and pounded Urban Meyer in Utah with Alex Smith. That was only Rocky is the only was the only Mountain West coach to defeat Urban Meyer in the conference. So there you go. Going back to my buddy Isaac. What's this story behind the no cam policy? Why is media abiding it? I'm going to get into that very quickly. I'm not going to make like sarcastic jokes. And I'm going to read Lucas Albuquerque Journal sports writer Lucas Pearman's. He does something he calls Pearman's Power Rankings, PPP, which is the 10 best things of the week. Again, he's the sports editor over at the Albuquerque Journal. And he wrote this. And I thought this kind of talked to somebody else. I thought that I still like it. I thought it should have been number 1 on his power rankings. There's a little bit of a Decker headline called End of the Bench Pictures or It Didn't Happen, right? I love how he leads off with that. Readers of the sports section may have noticed there were no photos of the UNM football spring game that allegedly took place on Saturday at University Stadium. The program's Power That Be asked media and fans to cap their cameras and leave their phones in their pockets while the scrimmage was ongoing. Quote, in the same email I have from our friend Frank Mercogliano at UNM, the no camera thing is real. By the way, this is a professional email. The no camera thing is real. And if you are filming or shooting, you will be asked to leave. I'm going to make the same joke I always do. I don't know if they're getting ready to invade Nazi-occupied Europe or play Georgia. Because, as much as I'd like to see Bronco Mendenhall win because of what we do here, winning is good for owning this company. He still hasn't done anything yet. And I make the joke, I'm from Missouri. You got to show me. UNM Athletics advised in an email to media before the game. The Journal compiled amid much grousing in private. Ed, you and I have done that. Not being able to photograph the spring game, that's a molehill. A taxpayer-funded entity telling press that they can and can't photograph inside a taxpayer-funded stadium. That's a hill big enough to have a slippery slope. You know what might combat future no photo directives? A mountain of subscribers calling and emailing the athletics department to ensure the press and their eyes and ears within the program. And the email from Frank, photo and video are allowed during the warm-up periods, but once the actual scrimmage game starts, all cameras, still or video must be down. Fans are being asked the same thing. Is this 1959? I don't, and the only cameras that should be shooting or rolling are from the football video staff and the UNM March comm staff, which is shooting stuff for promo pieces. The camera thing is real, and if you are filming or shooting, you will be asked to leave. You are more than welcome to stay and watch. Please no photo and video once the game started. After the scrimmage, they had an autograph session. And then in the same email, he said, so Bronco will hopefully come over and speak pretty quickly once they are done. I'm just going to not try to ramble and delve into this quickly. And then Ed, I'll get your thoughts and maybe your guys' thoughts. I don't understand it. You have Michigan and Ohio State on Fox cable, not even cable, playing their spring games and celebrating. I know in Michigan's case, celebrating a national title. I don't understand this at all. And again, being at a taxpayer funded facility, kind of in public, I don't understand how you can ask in 2024 people to not take photos. It makes zero sense to me. And I'm going to say it again. I respect Bronco Mendenhall. I'm not an X's and O's guy. I'm not a head football coach. I'm a talking head that owns this company. I don't get paid to do this. Doing it out of, talking about the water cooler or sitting at a bar. Bronco Mendenhall has not won a game at UNM yet. I don't know whose idea this is. It's pretty shitty. I don't know how you want fans there. Where the hell is Eddie Nunez? Don't you want fans in there? I understand that this was a free event, but you're going to get the same amount of people there when they're 1-5, probably. That'll probably end up on freezing cold takes. Because I can see him beating Montana State. Montana State's been a perennial team that's been pretty good in FCS. So that's a test within itself. And then I learned the news of the 65 teams, 65 players. I don't, and it's not like media griping because we're members of the media. You are deterring the media from doing their job. And what about the people in the stands that are trying to pump up the football team? And I got a little bit of flack to this for talking to a friend and a former UNM football player for being sarcastic. Like, legitimately, what are you hiding from Georgia? I guess you're ripping off winning the college football playoff now. I get the step is to win games and build a program. I completely understand that. But this program, without knowing it, is its own worst enemy, regardless of who the head coach is. And Paul Krebs did kill it the day he pushed Rocky out. And it's sad. And he allegedly fired Rocky. But that's how I feel. And I think I'm going to say it. It's a piss poor job once again by UNM. Terrible. Because come October and come November, there's going to be nobody in the stands. Winning cures all. I get that. Even then, at this point, I think there's more excitement for what Richard Pitino and the basketball team has done. But I think, and I'll probably get flack for it, Eddie Nunez and Frank Mercogliano have let down UNM fans, UNM alumni, like ones that are on this show. Ed, I wanted your opinion on that, and maybe a rebuttal about what I said. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. We talked about how we were going to probably tackle this. I think this is a bigger story than I think this is an actual story, and it not being covered. And I know the TV stations can't do it because they need video. So I don't know what they put on air. I mean, sorry, I got to bite my tongue. They absolutely love the TV stations because they don't say anything negative. And I'm a firm believer in checks and balances. I even need it in my own life. I need checks and balances, and that department needs to be held with checks and balances. Ed, I'm sorry for that ramble. I just
that's okay. But I look back, since Rocky's been fired, and they went with Mike Loxley, then Bob Davie, and then Danny Gonzalez. And now when they hired Bronco Mendenhall, I think we were all kind of excited about that. I know I was, and I said, hey, seems like a good hire. So if you mentioned the program has not been good for a long time, you would think you'd want to sell the heck out of it, right? We've got a great coach in here. He's been a winner. He's only had one losing season, been to what, 10 bowl games, and so I would think you'd want to sell that. And I'm covering I cover sports all the time for ProView Networks and at Western, and I don't think I've ever seen or heard of that where you can't take pictures or video. Any sporting event I've ever been at, and I've been at a lot, is complete with all those things. You want to see for yourself. So a little concerning there when I read that in the paper, and I had to read it twice and maybe even read it a third time because I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I think the university, again, you're talking about people getting together and actually talking about this. I mean, how's this going to go over? That would be my question. Wait a minute. If we do that, what are people going to say? How are they going to react? We're trying to sell a program here. We need to fill seats here. That the stadium, we've averaged. What have they averaged the last? They've announced attendance. What, 11,000, 12,000?
Well, they average 14,000, but again, they include the season tickets. I mean, when you look at the stands,
Right.
there ain't. I hate to say it like this, there ain't no 14,000 fans in there.
Okay, so again, if I'm looking at that and I see for myself, and I'm thinking we need to get people in here. We need to promote the program. We need to sell this, that this is a good hire, that Coach Mendenhall has been a winner wherever he's been. And instead, it's just strange to me. There's no cameras, no videos, no numbers on players, 65 players. And Rick, you mentioned that depth is a concern, man. That's a concern. That's a real concern. And hopefully they get, they fill out the roster. But I got to say that the more I think about it, it doesn't. We want to know. I know, and somebody said this to me today that a lot of coaches are paranoid. They keep things, close to the chest. I understand that, but I still think it. The thing that what Lucas Perriman wrote was about in a taxpayer-funded stadium. It's not doesn't belong to the university. It belongs to all of us in a sense. So I hope things change there because I'm anxious to see. I'm going to watch. I want to see how they're going to be. Of course, I want to see that. But the message being sent out now seems to be, closed. Don't come. Can't see. I don't know. I don't know if that's the message I would, as somebody that I don't work there, but I would have to get together with people and say, is that what we really want to do? But since this program has been languishing and been pretty bad for the past 10, how many games have they won, Ryan? In what, 4 years? 11 games we mentioned. And
when I had a conversation with Frank Mercogliano about, and again, I know most people don't know him. Us in the media do. And my relationship with him is a little bit better. And he's been, do I believe it? I don't know. He's been better with us. But I told him last year, this is a football program that won 36 games, I think from 2012 to 2022. Football program that had won 36 games in 10 years.
Okay, so with that said, I'm still a diehard fan. I watch, I listen, I read. I want them to win. I still want them to win. So there's other fans that still buy season tickets. But if you're thinking about that, you hired a good coach, right? You hired the guy that, hey, but I think Ryan, you and I, and maybe even Rick, and I don't know if Jacob said this, but I kind of wondered, why would Coach Mendenhall come? Why would he come here? I'm glad he did. I thought to myself, he's got a great record, but wouldn't you want to promote that? Wouldn't you say, we've got, Buddy Ryan said this when he got to Arizona, you got a winner in town now, and that didn't turn out so good, but you got a winner in town, right? I remember when Buddy Ryan said that in Arizona, it was funnier than heck. You got a winner in town. He's won everywhere he's been. So why would you not want to promote that and get people excited? Instead, the message has been more like, arm's length, stay away, don't come, don't film, I don't know. I don't know. It's mind-boggling to me. It's not going to stop me from being a Lobo fan. I'm going to still watch, cheer, when appropriate, get mad when appropriate, talk with you guys about the games. But to me, it's a little perplexing to me, the approach that's being taken right now. I don't know why you would do that. It doesn't make sense. You want to sell, you want to buy. We got to make revenue. Football's supposed to, in charge of making so much revenue. They haven't made it through ticket sales. Don't we want to change that around with the coach that we hired? That doesn't make sense to me. So that's where I'm at. But like I said, I'm a big fan. I'm still going to read and follow and do what I do.
Just leave your cell phone in the car.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
I just wonder, so like, is Fox or CBS going to be allowed to broadcast games at this point? I know that's a sarcastic ass comment, but you have to think about it.
But
Mine
I just
was
think
gonna be if like a 6-year-old is got their parents' phone and is taking pictures of a football team, are you gonna kick the kid out? I mean, that's just
I
ridiculous.
think
And
our-
who's gonna be the one monitoring this? Like, is it the ushers in the aisleway? Because I'll just look at them and laugh because half
there
those
was
people
there were
are
no
86 years
there's
old.
no ushers.
So yeah,
There's no ushers at those games. Rick, I'm
yeah. So
sorry.
I don't know.
I know I see no way this can continue on during the season, right? Do you think, Ryan, that'll continue on? And you can answer that when I'm done here. But from purely a marketing and social media perspective, you need people to be out there creating TikTok videos, creating the stuff to pump out the Lobos name across the internet. That draws interest from new recruits. Oh, what's going on at the spring game today? Let's look in. There's none of that generated right on the internet, and that's where all the traffic comes through. So you're sabotaging your ticket department because probably a lot of ticket holders are questioning, or potential season ticket holders are questioning if they want to go into this concentration camp and not be able to use their utilities. But I don't know. It's confusing from a business perspective for me. If they want to make NIL money, you got to generate social media clicks, and you can't do that without a phone.
I don't get on TikTok much. I'm on Twitter a little bit. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. From a business standpoint, the I've thought about that. I used to never think that way. It's win or lose. But from a complete, Rick, I agree with you. From a complete business standpoint, I don't get it, because I feel like unless they win games next year and you're going into 2025, it's going to be the same recurring thing where you have maybe 30,000 people for Montana State in week 0 in August 24th. It's going to be hot. People are going to be people go to tailgate, people go get drunk, then they leave. It's what happens. I mean, I remember I have pictures during the Loxley years where there's no cars in the parking lot. I talked about this with another friend today who has sorry, I was reading a comment. Somebody who's worked within UNM, and it's the question is, does anybody care? Because again, I'm probably guilty of it. There's a lot of this, there's a lot of talking, and nobody backs it up because nobody goes to the UNM games. I don't think anybody cares. And I'll be honest with you, I used to never complain. The NMSU game with the traffic there was an utter disaster. And parking was just complete and utter, crap. A few comments on football and what we're talking about. UNM making us long for Jim Harbaugh, Bill Belichick, Loxley. Thanks, Isaac. Jared Real. Like it, they're not ready for the spotlight. They ain't done nothing yet, and let them earn everything. I love the way he's handling it. And again, I think I mentioned that last week that we, with Cy, there is two sides to this. I mean, we could have gotten photography, had Eric not had a child on Monday, he probably would have went and shot it, but we couldn't shoot it. I mean, I don't understand that at all. Y'all think that Bronco just believes he got it like that and the rest will take care of itself. Juan Baez, I apologize. I don't understand the first part of that. I don't know if any of you guys want to dissect that, but maybe the rest will take care of itself by winning. I mean, he's got a roster. This is so native, but he's got a roster of 65. I don't know if anybody wants to answer that question. I don't fully understand that.
I don't, but I wanted to say something to that last comment about the way he's handled it. They don't deserve the spotlight. That's not what we're saying. I get that. Nobody's saying they deserve anything, but I think people have a curiosity to see. There's a big difference, a huge difference, to see what the team's about. No one is saying that this guy, Devin Dampier is a star yet, or that nobody is saying any of those things, but people just want to see. That's all they want to see for themselves. Spotlight or no spotlight, those things will take care of themselves if they win. No one is saying anything about any spotlight. I'm just curious. I think people are curious and want to see. That's it. We want to see what are they going to be like. Again, spotlights and awards, Mountain West Conference Award winner, freshman of the week, players of the week. That will come later if they're good. Nothing to do with any spotlight at all.
Yeah, I just think it's kind of great. I just think it's kind of crazy that you see like these Alabama. I mean, I don't want to believe me, please God, don't let me compare Alabama to UNM football, but you see all these bigger schools. Let's just take it down a notch. We'll go to like I don't know, BYU. BYU has people at their spring game. They have cameras at their spring game. They have people shooting the spring game. They have scouts there. They have media members there. And then people take the video and portray it out, like Rick was saying, to, you know, all the media outlets and the internet and TikTok and Instagram and all this stuff. And you kind of want that to hype up your team, right? Because you just run by one of those videos and you watch it and you're like, hey, maybe I should go check out a UNM game, right? But if there's none of that, it seems really weird that, you know, new coach, new team, new attitude, fresh start, and that's kind of the message that you're relaying to your fans. Just seems a little off to me. Like Ed was saying, you know, you guys have all been saying it's a little different. It's a weird approach from my perspective.
I wonder if it's, I don't want to keep dwelling on it. I do think there's truly more of a story here for for an assistant athletic director and a media, you know, department chair to say that, and then to write, you know, once again, write an email like that. The no camera thingy, or excuse me, the no camera thing is real. I think it's lazy. If you go to the Lobo football Twitter page, it's like pictures that they had. I don't know why you do that. I'll repeat myself. I think this football program is its own worst enemy. You know what? I look back and I give Danny Gonzalez a lot of credit for everything he did despite not winning. I think the one thing that Bronco can do is beat New Mexico State. In October, sometime in October there. Greg Lujan, we know how UNM's NIL finances are doing. That's private information. I don't know anything about that. We are friends with Kurt Roth and Drew Herrig over at 505 SVF. Again, we haven't had Kurt on in about a year. He is a busy dude. He's working on the roster now. They do have other players signed within football, like the program. They had women's basketball. That is private information. I hear all kinds of things and I don't believe it. I hear I hear that they're going to throw X amount of dollars to JT Toppin. What I saw, and Jeremy Roach is getting 1.5 mil to go play at Baylor from Duke. I'm not sure why he's leaving. Maybe he's a graduate transfer, maybe a change of pace. Also, another thing is Calipari at Alabama, John Calipari at Arkansas has a $5 million budget. So I think whatever you hear at UNM, it's not that high. This is not a knock on Kurt Roth. I absolutely love Kurt. He's done wonders. Look what he just did this last year. I'm just saying I don't think that is high of a ceiling. You know, I've heard that they're paying JT Toppin like $500,000. Well, if they have $2 or $3 million and they're paying other players, especially a football team, then I don't think he's making that much money. I am not here to speculate, but that's just my belief. That is my opinion. But I'm going to say it again, and I'm not like here to brown nose. Kurt Roth is awesome. He's great at what he does, and look at how he has worked with Richard Pitino and resurrected the UNM basketball program. We're coming up on an hour and a half. Oh, go ahead. Rick.
One final thought one thing I saw reported regarding the football team and NIL is that only 25 of the 115 players on the UNM football team get paid through the NIL collective. So that's only a fraction of the team. So when you're thinking about recruiting transfers in, there's probably no NIL money in the football program to go around at this point, I would think, unless there's the guys walking out the door forfeit that money. I don't understand how that part works, but so only 25 players on the football team is what I saw reported even get part of that collective money. They could be making money in other ways outside on other endorsements, but from UNM directly, only 25.
That's not really a lot. Stealing I'm glad you said final thoughts, Rick. Stealing from Jerry Springer. Anybody final thoughts? Ed, you have any final thoughts?
No, I think it's, you know what, I think we've all touched on, a lot of good points, about, Lobo basketball and Lobo football, and hopefully, with Lobo football, hey, I'm still hoping that, the wins will be, coming somewhere down the line, but, yeah, good discussion about Lobo basketball too. And I thought Jacob gave some great information about Nolan. I think that's some great info. So I'm looking forward to seeing him.
That's why I asked him to join. Jacob, do you have any final thoughts?
No, just I think it would be interesting to see if the Lobos can add a couple more people on the basketball team here in the next couple weeks. I know that the portal closes, but they have time to, resurrect some people and try and get them while they're in there. I've seen a couple guys that we have had interest in, from smaller schools that I think could make the jump up. So it'll be interesting to see what we could land here in the next couple weeks. And then obviously the football team, we've got some time to see what goes on there and the changes that happen. So that's a little bit of the final thoughts for me.
I already gave my thoughts. Kind of, again, I think that's a really poor job done by my alma mater, and those in that department. Just, I don't. Hey,
I got a few more thoughts.
Go ahead.
I guess just really quick, other transfer news in Mountain West land. Out at Boise State is Roddy Anderson III. As of this evening, they did pick up the transfer Cardenas from San Jose State to fill that point guard position. So Anderson decides to bolt. They also lost Buzo Agbo to USC. So Boise State still has 4 open scholarships as well. They're losing Max Rice. They're bringing back Omar Stanley and Degenhart down low. Probably the best 1-2 combo outside of Toppin and Nelly in the conference down low. So these teams, some are going to look the same in some ways, like Utah State retaining Martinez and Falsalev. Still waiting to see where Osabar is going to land. I don't think he has a chance to go back there, but just interesting to see the basketball team switching. And I think on a positive note for football, we should all be pumped up about Dampier. I think he does have the real ability that we haven't seen in a while as someone that can really be dynamic and pull the lineup with the run pass option. He's very creative in the way he gets rid of the ball. I went back and watched some of the game against Boise last year, and his decision making, I don't think he had any interceptions last year. So I think they have a good leader on offense, and also this year they'll be able to use the headphones, the mic inside college helmets. So he'll be listening from the offensive coordinator, which I think is even another helpful thing, being a young quarterback. So I think there is hope on the offense. And I really like where Dampier, what he's looking like and what the future is for him.
For all the nonsense I spewed, I think Devin Dampier, I'm happy he's back. Corey Krosky-Merritt, we didn't even mention that. He was at the spring game and he is now at Ole Miss. He committed. So I think he's that kind of level talent. I'm, just from what I've seen, I think that's a really good get. Jacob, what Eric Musselman has done at USC, man, he that's quite a job. And then I think Arkansas is coming together too. I think Ian Martinez, Rick, I'm going to check it. Yeah, I could be wrong. I thought Ian Martinez had announced he was in the portal. I could be wrong. Maybe I misunderstood you there, but I have to double check that.
I thought he said he was coming back. Is that wrong, Jake, or is he still out there?
I haven't looked at him recently. I need to check in and see. I was going to answer your comment about USC, and Musselman's really he's putting together a really good team over there at USC. They've got some real quiet additions. Obviously Ogbo is going there. They've got AG from Bowling Green, who I actually like him as a big guy. He's bringing in some talent over there. I would not be surprised if USC is a good team next year. Obviously, it's, like we've said, it takes a little time to gel as a team, and that's gonna take its time. But USC has a lot of talent, and I've always, and Ryan knows this, I've always loved Musselman as a coach. So I think that he's going to be in a good spot coming up this next year.
I lied. John Rothstein on Sunday yesterday. Ian Martinez is returning to Utah State next season per his IG page. Had entered the transfer portal, a key development from Jared Calhoun and the Aggies. 3 out of the 5 starters are returning to Utah State. So that is big news there. He announced it yesterday. Yeah, sorry, I missed that, Isaiah. Thanks, appreciate that. Someone hide camera inside university just in case. Night, guys. Thank you, Isaac.
Or use those Google glasses, right? They got glasses now with cameras in them.
Yeah. How are you going to enforce that, UNM? Podcast with Sean Ryder, about 20 minutes, breaking down the spring game. Got his thoughts on everything. Talking football, just not camera gate. UNM. Looking forward to that. We're again going to start going live every Tuesday and Thursday at 8:00. Not this Thursday with the NFL draft, and we didn't really only. I'll get it with Sean. Not really probably anybody getting drafted by UNM. Dante Martin might be an free agent, signed as a free agent, undrafted free agent. So obviously that, but we will return next Tuesday with a whole new slew of topics. I'm trying to line up some guests, but again, I'm going to throw Sean Ryder up. Listen to him. I love Sean. Great young kid, great young reporter. So very cool. On behalf of Jacob Neff, Rick Thompson, Ed Nunez, my name is Ryan Tamori. Appreciate everybody listening, and we will talk to you next week.
What?